have to do this. We have to have this. It's like we're taking a giant ayahuasca trip as a society, and all of the apparent and obvious but ignored violence and misogyny and abuse from Hollywood to your workplace to politics is just getting exhumed.
We are deep in the puking phase.
And we're deep in the puking phase because it also implicates that was why, like, I read Rebecca Traister's piece in New York Magazine, and one of the things that was I didn't agree with everything, and I'm generally, frankly, not a big Rebecca Traister fan in some ways, but it was a very smart piece. And, she also said, part of the reason we're in the puking phase is because on some level it implicates everybody. Everybody.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what implicate everybody? I'm a grandfather.
I'm a vegan.
No one had more progressive accomplishments than me.
I'm a vegan grandfather.
I'm a vegan grandfather. I never did a goddamn thing. I always, I have said for years that Bill Clinton, I don't know if I believe every single allegation against Bill Clinton, but I have zero doubt that he has committed acts that any of us would consider to be, at the very least, a form of sexual harassment. That is my conservative way of putting it. That's my ultra safe comment.
Yeah, that's
on Bill
very
Clinton.
conservative.
Very conservative. And I would not be surprised if allegations of him raping women were true at all. And he absolutely was covered for. And everybody will. There's this new piece in the Atlantic which brings to mind just that kind of extraordinary 1999 or 98 New York Times editorial that Gloria Steinem wrote, which I'm sure she's ashamed of. But, things have changed, and I don't see how there isn't some sort of, it is, because Bill Clinton's the good example of this, because it's not going to just be a reckoning with his behavior. It's going to be a reckoning of how many people covered for his behavior. And you look at the fact that under Monica Lewinsky, and now Monica Lewinsky was consensual, and there isn't any charge of violence. Obviously, there's an insane asymmetry in that situation, and you would like to think that if you were president of the United States and a disturbed 21-year-old showed you her thong, you might say, like, all right, you need some help, versus I could use some help, which is what happens. But setting all that aside, in my mind, from my understanding of Monica Lewinsky's situation, the truly obscene thing about Monica Lewinsky was not even what happened between them. It was tawdry. It was depressing. It was an abuse of power. Okay. But he, along with his whole White House political operation and countless supporters in media and politics, went on a smear. I mean, she became the joke. Monica Lewinsky, a troubled 21-year-old who basically gave, was sort of like just a sexual outlet for a frustrated, compulsive president who had no sense of boundaries or self-control. She became the national punchline. She had, you had Clinton operatives saying, she's crazy, she's a stalker, she's lying. They ruined this woman's life in a collective act of abuse of a young woman who didn't know what the fuck she was doing. And that is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And the class dimensions, look, I remember when Donald Trump brought out Clinton's accusers and Paula Jones was there in a baseball cap being like, what about Bill Clinton? Why don't you ask us about Bill Clinton? I thought that was hilarious, okay? And I remember, I think it was James Carville said something like, you could put a $20 bill in the back of like a Budweiser can and run it through any trailer park in Arkansas and you'll come up with Clinton accusers, okay? And that's a funny line. But it also is unbelievable. And think about the class dimensions of it. I mean, that was in some ways the other subtext of a lot of the dismissal of Clinton's accusers. Like, Bill Clinton is one of the most brilliant, talented people on earth. His wife is brilliant and talented. What does he want? Why is he going to harass some trashy state worker? And of course, it was complicated by the fact that, in fact, There was a right-wing conspiracy against the Clintons, and a ton of evil, disgusting people dumped an unlimited amount of money to try to destroy them. Oddly enough, clearly almost having nothing to do with actual politics, because the Clintons were on the right in terms of reality in the 1980s and 90s. They were center-right politicians, I guess, just not paleo-con billionaire neo-fascists who resented Bill Clinton's sex life, apparently. But, I mean, this is all going to have to, especially, I think, Bill Clinton.
I think it did cultural damage.
It did cultural damage. It did. Well, that's what Caitlin Flanagan, I think, in the Atlantic piece said, is I think she said that there was a certain, even though it was disgusting. And by the way, if Joe Biden runs for president, there's going to be some real questions about how he handled that Anita Hill hearing. I'm not talking in terms of his own personal conduct and he gives women shoulder rubs or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Maybe new things will come out about that. But I'm not talking about that, okay? I'm not putting that on the same level. But the way he handled, if you go into his, and it wasn't even like he wasn't part of the team that tried to destroy Anita Hill, but he absolutely was. He had no idea how to handle that case, and did not protect her, and did not go at Clarence Thomas nearly ruthlessly enough.
And his most recent statement, I believe, is he feels bad that she felt she wasn't satisfied by the process, which is not an apology.
That is not an apology. And that's a major mark on Joe Biden's career.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos